A welfare state, a nation with a high level of happiness, and a leader in the design industry. Let's meet Ambassador Thomas Lehmann from Denmark, the only European country that has a strategic alliance with Korea. We'll hear about the Danish Maritime Forum, where the Maritime Agreement was discussed, along with the Korea-Danish Green Growth Alliance, as we await the second UN Climate Change Agreement, along with other agreements and changes in the cooperative relationship between the two countries. We will also touch upon the summit held at the UN headquarters in September, Copenhagen Solutions exhibit that was held in Seoul, the good relationship between the two nations, active cultural exchange, and recent events in the ambassador's life.
Thank you for joining us at the G Lounge today. It's a great honor to have a chance to speak with you.
Thank you very much for coming here to my house. It's a pleasure having you. It's a pleasure for me being on your show.
Well, we know you've been here in Korea for almost a year now.
Yes.
And we know that Denmark has an increasingly important relationship with the Republic of Korea. The current Prime Minister, Lars Løkke Rasmussen,
Yes.
had in September a summit with President Park Geun-hye of the Republic of Korea.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit of some of the important issues and important sort of directions of the relationship?
Well, our relationship really goes back a very long time. And I think it all started with the Danish hospital ship Jutlandia that came
Yes.
to the Korean War in 1951. It treated not only wounded soldiers, but also the civilian population. So a very important contribution. After the Korean War, Danish doctors and nurses stayed on in Seoul, and they helped establish what is now today the National Medical Center. So we have a very long established partnership, friendship of working together with Korea, and we are very proud of that. And today we work in many fields. Anything from agriculture, from maritime issues,
Right.
government to government institutions and talks. So it's a very broad partnership based on mutual trust, based on a common vision for moving our partnership more in a future direction.
An example of that future direction would be the Green Growth Alliance, for example. Could you tell us a little bit about this innovation?
Yes. Green Growth Alliance we established 6 years ago. And it's really about a commitment of moving forward towards a low carbon economy.
Mm-hmm.
Both countries have an interest in this. We both have experience and knowledge when it comes to developing new, smarter technologies that enable us to use less energy, but also make sure that we let out fewer greenhouse gas emissions.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a very strong partnership and a very strong alliance that we have, and we are very proud of that.
Now, when we use the word alliance, often people will associate that with sort of military alliances. How is this particular alliance configured? What is the significance of that?
You know, it makes me very proud when the Korean government comes to me and say, Korea has two alliances.
Mm-hmm.
One alliance with the US,
Mm-hmm.
which is about security
Right.
and military.
Right.
And then they have one alliance with Denmark, which is about
Right.
green growth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a very important contribution, and it just shows you that this alliance, when we talk about green growth, is more than just a partnership. This
Right.
is a true commitment of moving forward towards a low carbon economy. And the recent summit between my Prime Minister and
Right.
President Park Geun-hye really also confirmed that this is what we want to do.
So if you look at the two nations' sort of infrastructure, technology, culture, what does each country contribute to this alliance?
Yes. I like to say that Denmark, when it comes to green growth, when it comes to developing energy efficient solutions and so on, that we have been first movers.
Right.
I mean, we have had our infrastructure in place for decades. And we have created a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience with that. For example, only last year, 50% of the total energy consumption in Denmark from electricity came from wind turbines. So
Really?
it just shows you that we have come a very long way in developing technology and making the transition towards a green economy.
Right.
Now, Korea has come a very long way in a very short period of time.
Right.
Korea is a fast mover. And I think that combining the first and the fast mover is a very, very interesting concept, but also something which will have a great deal of potential. And that is why we treasure this alliance with Korea in green growth. And Koreans have shown over the years how innovative they are, how quick they are in creating new cutting-edge technologies. And I think that will be a benefit for our partnership.
Now, beyond the alliance between the two countries, you also have developed together institutions like the Global Green Growth Institute, right, which is even a broader platform.
Yes. Yeah. The GGGI is an international organization, mainly focusing on creating green growth in developing countries.
Right.
And we are very happy to work closely with Korea in developing this very, very important agenda.
So I think I had heard that, in fact, your Prime Minister, Rasmussen, has a personal connection with the GGGI.
Yes. My current Prime Minister, Lars Løkke Rasmussen, he was actually, in fact, the chairman of GGGI for 2 years, from 2012 to 2014.
At the very beginning, was that then?
At the very beginning of GGGI developing into an international organization.
Right.
And I believe he made a very important contribution to that. I think that is well recognized also. And also now we see how GGGI has developed into a very strong and a very ambitious international organization.
Now, you had mentioned briefly just about the maritime issues, and I realized both Denmark and Korea are very active on the high seas in terms of trade and transport. Can you tell us a little bit about I think it was the Danish Maritime Forum and the efforts between Korea and Denmark?
Yes. Look, we are both, Korea and Denmark, maritime nations.
Right.
Surrounded by sea, very important for us when we trade with other nations.
Right.
Denmark having one of the largest, if not the largest, shipping company in the world, A.P. Møller Mærsk.
Right.
Korea being the country of the world's largest shipyards.
Right.
So it's only natural for our two countries to work closely when it comes to shipping and developing new methods of shipping. And we hosted earlier in October a conference, maritime conference, and we also had the pleasure of having a Korean minister, and we discussed there how can we develop new methods in contributing to the shipping industry becoming more green.
Right.
And that was very successful indeed.
What specifically can we do in terms of making a greener
Well, I mean,
shipping
just
industry?
to take one concrete example, our shipping company, Maersk, they have, in association with the Korean shipyards, developed the world's largest container ship.
Right.
It's called the Triple E ship. It carries 18,000 containers.
Right.
This is not only the largest container ship in the world, it's also the most environmental friendly container ship and also the most energy efficient ship. So this just shows that a partnership looking ahead into how can we develop green shipping is something that is not only important but something where we have a lot of potential, Korea and Denmark, with our shipping interest and traditions that we can work together.
You talked a bit about the cooperations at the national level. At the local level, in terms of cities, I see there's been an effort as well. Specifically, there's I think it's called the Copenhagen Solutions, this whole program. Tell us a little bit about Copenhagen Solutions, and the relationship with the city of Seoul.
Yes. The city of Seoul and Copenhagen have a very strong partnership. Only recently did they enter into an agreement cooperating on another different fields, including focus on climate change.
Excellent.
And that is why we were very happy to bring to the beautiful, beautiful City Hall of Seoul an interesting exhibition explaining about what has been the work of Copenhagen in moving towards a vision they have themselves of becoming CO2 neutral in 2025.
Right.
And they're doing a lot of work in Copenhagen to promote the climate agenda, to make that city more environmentally friendly.
Right.
Let me give you some examples. Biking is one of the more natural element of transportations in Denmark, and in Copenhagen not least. Bicycle lanes all over. We have now the harbor of Copenhagen being so clean that people swim in it.
Really?
And we have set also in Copenhagen very ambitious targets as to how you should reduce CO2 emissions. So Copenhagen is leading a way, and really it's also for cities to lead the way in the fight for promoting a low carbon economy and to challenge the climate change that we all faced with.
And what has the response in Korea been in Seoul to the program?
Well, the amount of visitors that came was very, very good. You know, Seoul City Hall, a very busy place. Many people come in and out of that great venue. So many interested people came and saw the exhibition. And I think we also got them inspired by things that are being done at our level.
Right.
It's very much about how do you make urban life pleasant? How can you make your city more smart? And there, I think we have a beautiful potential for more cooperation. We have, as I said, a long tradition of moving in a more green direction.
Right.
Korea has many lessons and many strong experiences. For example, when it comes to ICT solutions.
Right.
And the whole concept of developing, you know, smart cities, making it more pleasant, more easy for us to live in, is also important when we talk about the low carbon economy and the green growth.
By this time, the Permanent Secretary of Health and Prevention will have visited Seoul. Can you talk a little bit about that visit and its importance?
Yes. We have, between our two governments, established a yearly contact, yearly meetings on health and welfare issues. And during the visit, we will be looking at how to work closer together. Both Korea and Denmark are faced with the same challenge, an aging population.
Right.
And it's very important that we address this in the right manner. And how can we, you know, create new solutions that will ease the burden of the aging population? And here we talk about many issues. Health IT, how can ICT issues help our healthcare sector in the future? An area such as, for example, telemedicine is something that we talk about. Concretely, we also look into what can we do together in order to promote clinical tests between the two countries. We each have experiences in that area. And then we also look at, for example, new infrastructural projects, building big super hospitals, being specialized in all kind of disease prevention and disease alleviation. So it's a broad variety of issues that we look at, and these meetings have great value to both countries.
I would imagine both countries have a complementary role to play.
Exactly, and that is why we see that as, you know, as a great way to promote not only ideas but also to share experiences.
Right.
And in Denmark we have a very big health sector. Invest a lot of public money into that, but we also need to find ways to make things more efficient, and there IT solutions can help us, and Korea has the tools to do it and the experience. So this is just one example of where we can work together in the future.
Very exciting.
Yes.
So let's on a slightly different topic.
Yes.
About trade and
Yes.
trade relations,
Yes.
maybe a little related to the shipping topic
Yes.
we discussed before. So talk about the trade relations between Korea and Denmark, and specifically what's going to Denmark, what's coming from Denmark, and how that relationship is evolving.
Yeah. Well, we have seen a very, very positive development in our trade relations. That not only goes for Danish exports to Korea, it also goes for Korean exports to Denmark. And I think what has really helped this trade relationship over the past few years is that the European Union and the Republic of Korea entered into a free trade agreement some years ago.
Right.
And taking off tariffs has helped boosting not only businesses but also commercial trade and opportunities. So I think that's a very positive development.
Right.
Now, what we export to Korea is a lot of manufacturing goods, industrial goods.
Right.
We touched upon the shipyards previously. We have a lot of subcontractors, a lot of companies that deliver products to the Korean shipyards. So that is one part.
Right.
Then we export a lot of food.
Right.
Koreans are very happy eating Danish pork. Danish chicken. And then we also have big pharmaceutical companies that have very strong position on the Korean market.
Right.
And we have seen an increase in all of these areas. And Koreans, they export ships, very big ships. They export, of course, also, as they do to many other parts of the world, electronic components, not only mobile phones, but household electronics, and then cars and other manufacturing goods. So we have a very positive trade relationship.
Let me ask about a slightly different topic.
Yeah.
So unlike some ambassadors, you're actually ambassador to both the Republic of Korea and the North Korea, Democratic People's Republic of Korea.
Yes.
That's an unusual position. You could tell us a little bit about what that experience has been like.
Yeah, I visited North Korea myself at the end of May of this year. Had a 1-week stay there. It was my first official visit to North Korea. I met with government representatives.
You have an embassy there?
No, we don't have an embassy. So I cover it from
here.
Yeah.
From here. Right.
Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to cross the demilitarized zone.
Right.
So my transportation is from Seoul to Beijing, and then from Beijing to Pyongyang. I stayed there for 1 week, had an interesting program visiting and meeting government officials, but also going to the city of Sariwon, which is about 60 kilometers south of Pyongyang, to see a program that is sponsored by the World Food Program.
Right.
So very interesting visit, but also a visit where I use, when in my meetings and talks, I also, of course, put forward the Danish views.
Right.
And it's no secret that we are very, very concerned when it comes to the human rights situation in North Korea.
Right.
And this was one of my lines to the and one of my expressions to the North Korean government that we are very concerned about that. We're also deeply concerned about the development of the nuclear program and the ballistic missile program that is taking place in North Korea. And our message is that we really want to urge North Korea to live up to the recommendations being given by United Nations, live up to their obligation also, which has come into the, which stems from the resolutions of the United Nations Security Council.
Right. And maybe if we could, thinking a little bit larger, the issue, long-term question of reunification of the Korean Peninsula. There's lots of debate here in Korea. From a Danish, from Northern Europe, how does that unification issue look? What are your perspectives?
Well, we follow this debate, of course, also with very big interest. And my government fully supports the peaceful unification of the two Koreas. We hope that that will take place sometime in the future. We also very much support the so-called trust policy of President Park Geun-hye. We see that as an important measure in moving towards a peaceful unification. We're also very pleased to support the President's so-called Northeast Asia Peace and Cooperation Initiative. A very important initiative trying to bring together in this region, Northeast Asian region, peace and cooperation. Now, her initiative is very much inspired by the experiences and traditions that we have built up in Europe ever since the Second World War. So I think we have a lot to actually offer and to give and to share our experiences with. And this is why we are very happy to work with the Korean government on issues like this.
Well, it seems to me, perhaps, I mean, Korea has established very good bilateral and multilateral ties with all the nations in Asia, really. And Denmark has done similarly in Europe. Play a sort of similar role.
And I think there's a link. There's a link where you can use the experiences in Europe of creating peace and stability. You can use the experiences in Europe of creating a union, bringing together all the countries of Europe in a peaceful and stable manner. And I think there are experiences from that transition that can be used also in the discussion about security and politics and peace in this region. And I think the recent trilateral summit between the three countries is also an indication that there's a will to moving towards a more stable condition.
It was trilateral combined with multiple bilateral discussions. I thought it was quite successful too. So tell us a little bit of some of the cultural activities taking place at the embassy these days of interest.
Yes, we are working very hard on a big Hans Christian Andersen exhibition, which will be hosted in the Seoul History Museum. Very interesting, opening in December, running for a couple of months. And then we will also be celebrating later in December the 150th anniversaries of the big composer, classical music composer of Denmark, Carl Nielsen. And we'll be bringing a very interesting a trio to Seoul to make a performance. Then we have had an ongoing now in the Museum of Art at the Seoul National University. We have an interesting jewelry exhibition of contemporary Danish jewelry design. I can recommend going and see that.
Excellent.
And then we have had a number of events where we try to explain the culture of food in Denmark.
Excellent.
I think there's a trend in Korea at the moment of looking more towards the Nordic countries. Scandinavia, Denmark, looking towards and being inspired by our design, our food culture, and that we can also see in the trade statistics, that design products, craftsmanship is more and more becoming more and more popular in Korea. And that, of course, we are very pleased about. But also our food. We recently have had food promotion events with a very big attendance. A lot of media writings about our food promotion. So I think this is another interesting, development in Korea.
What would you say is sort of a typical Danish meal? What was it?
Well, I think that maybe our most popular meal, or let's say dish, is our open sandwiches. A piece of bread where you have different kind of toppings. Everything from pork-related toppings to fish products, vegetables, and so on. And there's actually no fixed way of doing it. It's very much your own imagination of how you want to compose an open sandwich. Earlier we had an interesting show at the Daily Museum of how our open sandwich are being developed, and also the history and tradition behind our food.
Fascinating. Did you have the exhibit of food actually?
Yes.
Or?
No, we had not only an exhibit of food, we had a chef demonstrating how this is being made. Mm-hmm. And then the good thing about this was that we had created a workshop,
right,
so that the public could actually for themselves try out how to do it.
Right.
So they were giving the raw materials,
mm-hmm.
they were giving the bread, and then they could compose their own open sandwich. And that was a very big success.
Fascinating, fascinating. Now, I think the most common association with Denmark, particularly since this World Happiness Report, is that it's the most happy country.
Yes.
And I think most recently there's a Korean author by the name of Oh Yeon-ho who published a book. I think we have it.
And I have it right
here.
Yes.
In which he says, "Can we also be happy?"
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about this happiness aspect of Denmark.
Look, I'm very happy, but also very proud that this is something that has come to a great attention here in Korea.
Right.
Because here I believe that we have things to share and experiences to give away. Yes, Denmark is among the most happiest. Danes are among the most happiest people in the world, and I believe there are many explanations for this.
Right.
One of the core issues is that we have a great deal of trust among the people.
Right.
We also live in a society where there's a great deal of very good balance between your work life and your social life.
Right.
We have a generous welfare state.
Right.
We have a very good educational system. Already very early age, you are brought up with values that in the end or later on in your life also gives you an attitude that helps you become, a happy person. And then we have also a great focus on environment, being a clean and a healthy society. And I think all of these components really give us a high ranking when it comes to happiness.
Right, right. Well,
and I think there are many experiences to share of what our traditions are and the Koreans, and that is why I think it's great that a person like Mr. O from Oh My News is developing a lot of attention into bringing out the message here in Korea about happiness.
Right, right.
And I'm working very closely with him, and I'm very happy to be associated with his programs.
And how have you found it now working together with Koreans at the embassy and in your daily life? What has the experience been of working with Koreans?
Well, I mean, it's been a fantastic experience. Mm-hmm. Again, Korean being very fast and very dynamic, and I like that in people. I like that you want to have an objective and you want to move towards that. Right. This is what we're working on when it comes to happiness. And there are many ways that we can do it. So promoting that is a great part of my work.
So you might say that happiness starts at home, and you have a family here in Seoul right now. Yeah. And you recently had a daughter, Sophie.
Sophie, yes.
Who was born here in Seoul.
She's now 9 months old.
Excellent.
She was born in February of this year. And this is the biggest gift in life.
Congratulations.
My first child. So yes, not only myself, but my wife and I, we are very, very happy to be parents. We are very happy to have the experience of bringing up a small child.
Sophie is a blessing that came into the couple's life 9 months ago. The adorable princess is full of curiosity and brings her parents the biggest joy ever.
Why? Say.
She has brought so much change into her parents' lives since her birth.
This is a completely new thing for us to be parents. It's a 24/7 job. Julie, of course, has the biggest responsibility because my job is very demanding. But I try to be with her as much as I can. and we really want to be, a family and do things together. And I think she also enjoys that very much.
You've adjusted to the food and the habits that are of Korea.
Yes, and I must say the food is something really I enjoy very much. The food, of course, being so much different from Danish food,
Right.
but I like the food being so colorful, so tasteful.
Right.
All the flavors that goes into the Korean dishes. I like the concept of you sharing the food, small
Right,
dishes,
right.
and I think that's a very, very nice tradition.
How would you compare that with the open sandwich you mentioned?
Well, I think
previously?
an open sandwich is more, you have an individual plate.
Right.
In
right.
Korea, you share
Right.
either bulgogi or a Korean barbecue. You sit around a table and you share the food, and I think that's a very, very nice tradition. It also makes a conversation over a dinner table, very nice and very informal.
Right.
So I enjoy that very much.
Now, in your life here in Korea, I know you're very busy here in
Yes.
Seoul, but you've had a chance. I heard you recently had a chance to go to Busan, and
Yes.
you've traveled in other parts of
Yes.
Korea. Tell us a little bit about other parts of Korea that you've
Well, it is correct. The job here is quite demanding.
Right.
There's a lot of, you have a very busy schedule as an ambassador in Korea. I enjoy that. I enjoy being busy. I enjoy going out and meeting people. That is also why I make it a priority of mine to visit as many parts of Korea as I can. I've
Excellent.
recently been to the city of Naju.
Right.
I've been to Busan several times, Jeju Island. So many areas in Korea I try to visit. I also, from a personal perspective, I like the nature. I'm a nature person, so I like to go hiking in the mountains nearby here in the Bukhansan, but
Excellent.
also be to the Sereksan mountains to see the leaf falls of last year. Beautiful, beautiful experience. So there are many places I still have to visit, and I'm really hoping to get to as many places in Korea as I can.
Now, you mentioned there was a certain issue that was very critical in terms of encouraging tourism and
Yeah.
business exchanges between
And
the
I think
two.
one crucial thing, an issue that I'm really working on very hard, is to try to create the right incentive to have an airline make a direct flight from Seoul to Copenhagen.
Excellent.
I think that will give a huge boost, not only to business relations, but also to people contacts.
Right.
And I think the incentive and the business case for such a direct flight is very much there.
Right.
And Copenhagen being a fantastic hub for not only going to other places in Scandinavia and the Nordic countries, but also to the rest of Europe.
Right, right. And in terms of, I just have a question about the young people. Of course,
Yes.
your daughter's still young, but eventually will be in school. How about the educational in terms of student exchanges or educational cooperation between the two countries?
Going very well. We see an increasing interest in Danish students traveling to Korea,
Really?
but also the other way. So I'm very happy to facilitate, these student exchange programs between Danish and Korean universities. A lot of also dual programs have been created between institutions.
You mean for the design?
Dual
and
degree,
right,
dual degree programs.
Right.
And that's very interesting, and that's encouraging to see that we have many students traveling both ways.
Excellent.
So that's a positive note, and that's also these people-to-people contacts
Right.
bring with them more attention to each other's countries, and I think that's a very positive development.
Any thoughts for the future in terms, both in your own activities or in all of our activities, about how we can encourage those people-to-people relations between the two countries?
Well, my main job is here to just keep on working on strengthening the partnership between Denmark and Korea, not only on government level, but very much also so on people-to-people level.
Right.
That is why I spend a lot of my time going outreach to the people of Korea. I visit and give lectures at universities. I We are very active on the social media. Through that, we have a great dialogue with the Korean public. So basically about getting Korea to know more about my country, Denmark. And that is my main task. And we see a very positive development in that. So
and that effort, and my understanding, is also a broader one, including other sort of Scandinavian countries as well here in
Well, we also want to work with our Nordic friends.
Right.
I think there's a Nordic wave moving on around the world.
Right.
That wave has also come to Korea. And recently we did a Nordic food promotion event at Hyatt Hotel, attended by several hundred people who got to know more insight into the food tradition in the Nordic countries.
Right.
And the food tradition there is very much based on that we want to have safe, healthy food, good raw materials.
Excellent.
I think that is also something that the Korean public understands and are very interested.
Right, right. And your feeling in terms of the future, of course, as the relationship matures, becomes more complex and diverse. What do you imagine the next 20, 30 years in terms of what's possible between these two countries?
Well, I think it's of course very difficult to predict about the future, but I think the path we are on now makes me very, very optimistic about the future and the future relationship between our two countries. At the moment, we are working on an action plan of where we want to see our partnership and our alliance develop over the next 2 to 3 years. Hopefully that plan can be,
So you have a very concrete sort of
plan. We try to be very concrete. As I said, we have a very elaborate partnership alliance. We cooperate on many, many fields. But I think it's also important to set new goals, new targets, and we want to do that in an action plan, which can be adopted at high political level, giving ownership to an important political message that we want to move our partnership forward.
Is there any part of that action plan you could share with us in terms of
I think there are I think there are many issues, but let me just take one concrete thing. Again, when we talk about food, a trend that we see not only in Denmark but also now becoming more and more interesting in Korea is organic food.
Right.
And how can we share experience? How can we together promote people to consume more organic products? And I think that could be a target for future cooperation. There's also elements when it comes to cultural exchanges, performing art, visual arts, children theaters, and so on. So then, it's a wide range of areas where we can move forward and develop new areas of cooperation. And one issue that has come up lately and where we also have a lot of focus is when we talk about the Arctic region.
Right.
Korea having great research competences and great interest in the Arctic, not only when it comes to northern sea routes, but also looking at how is the Arctic affecting, for example, climate change.
Right.
And Denmark having also, again here, a very long tradition. Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark. So we have big research facilities there, and we will be very happy to work closely with the Korean government on issues related to the Arctic.
Well, it seems like there's quite a diverse range of activities. Thank you very much, Ambassador Lehmann, for taking the time today.
Professor, thank you very much. It was my pleasure, and anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.